I'm Lizzie, MacIntosh. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression my freshman year of high school, so I've been really passionate about it ever since. Joined the peer listening, which we'll talk about later in this episode. Just been an advocate kind of since turning my pain into purpose. Yeah, and I guess we'll go more in depth later into the series, but
Yes.
right now, just a little overview.
I'm Claire Adams. I've had a few issues with mental health in the past. Mainly when I was younger, I had a lot of problems that we didn't know were a thing. So I spent a lot of years trying to figure out what was not necessarily wrong with me, but just what needed to be fixed and or what I needed help with. So I know the process of trying to figure things out. So I'm really passionate about talking about mental health.
Yeah, so I'm Tenbrink. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression and seasonal affective disorder, which goes along with depression. My freshman year of high school. So I've been really passionate about that. I still seek help. I'm not fixed, but I like to share the message, and I'm actually all three of us were peer listeners at the high school.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just a great program that we all get to be a part of and kind of share our stories of mental health and educate a lot of we talk with a lot of middle school students, younger kids. Just
Yeah,
about mental
and,
health, kind of preparing them for high school.
High schoolers and freshman center, but mainly middle schoolers. I feel like we visit them a lot.
Yeah, we just want to educate everyone.
Yeah.
At,
Of all ages, and we go to
'Cause I feel
story
the
point.
younger you start talking about mental health, the more the easier it is to break the stigma when they grow older. 'Cause
Yeah,
then
it
it's
just
in
feels
their brain
it
from the
feels
beginning.
normal. If you're talking about it at a young age, I feel like people are more comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
Because
And
you're
you
more
can
experienced.
avoid, building up those bad habits too.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know what's bad for you if you start talking about it when you're younger. 'Cause, I know for me, mental health wasn't something that was ever discussed really in my house.
Me too.
So when I was excessively worrying and I would be really, really sad and there was no reason for it, I just had no idea why.
Yeah.
When I would feel that way, I always felt ungrateful, where I'm you have a good household, you have a good family, you have the support systems. Why are you feeling this way? You should not be feeling this way, Lindsay.
Yes,
What are
yeah.
you doing? An ungrateful feeling where I'm not allowed to feel that way. But I feel that's another thing with the peer listening. It's from your peers, you're get to kind of I don't know, we tell them a bit
It's
about,
it's not just you. It
Yeah.
happens with a lot of people.
yeah, and people your age, where you're talking with a counselor, it's
Yeah, and
not the
for me, when I was younger, it was the same thing. My family wasn't super familiar with mental health and all the things that come with it, and especially because I was really little. I was 4, 5, 6, usually within there. I couldn't really express myself, and I didn't even know what mental health was at the time. So, everything that was going on in my life when I was younger, because I had some problems, and I was a little bit of a menace. But but my family had no clue what was going on. They just thought I was really not well behaved at all. But eventually, we figured out it was a chemical imbalance in my brain. So.
Yeah. So I guess kind of with that, we'll lead into our first segment of get to learn a little bit more about peer listening, and meet some of our future peer listeners and present peer listeners.
The Peer Listeners are a mental health advocacy group and are looking for applicants for next year.
The main goal of Peer Listeners is to break the stigma around mental health.
It really just gives you an opportunity to help your community when you can, where you can.
Peer Listeners put in a lot of work, but what exactly does being one entail?
Being a peer listener comes with opportunities for you to go visit the middle schools and just educate them on the topic of mental health.
I feel the volunteer acts that we do really help connect us with the community. And then we also do lots of things during lunchtime, we sell t-shirts, we make puppy chow as a group.
We put on a mental health football game, mental health basketball game, things like that, just to raise awareness for the whole community, not just within our school.
So since applications are out now, I would encourage everyone that might be interested to apply, because it might seem like a big commitment, but it's really not. It's all about kind of doing what you can when you can.
The group isn't just looking for anyone. They're looking for
Someone that's passionate about mental health, because mental health extends to anyone of any background, age, gender.
anyone from any walk of life, like, I feel like can benefit from peer listening.
Confidentiality, advocacy, and compassion are everything the peer listeners are about.
We meet and we have a training with the counselors about confidentiality. We sign the Be Nice pledge. That just, assures our students that come in for encounters that whatever they say in that room with their peer listener will not leave the room. It's completely confidential.
This has been Natalie Allshouse with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
Yes, I will be one of the leaders next year, which I'm excited for.
Me
So
too.
Me too.
I'll be here.
I know, but I just like
She can visit.
I feel like another big thing, like just like with men's mental health, there's like the barrier needs to be broken down with it, because I feel like most of the time there's like a bigger stigma or like a
Yeah.
greater stigma surrounding it.
Or honestly, it's just like, no, it's just not a thing. Like, people think that
Yeah, like,
men
it's
don't
not
have
supposed to
mental health. Like,
When like, everyone has mental health, it's like, I don't know.
That's something going in the next year that, like, I know they want to change about the programs a little bit, is to like get some more like men involved in the program who are passionate about mental health.
normalize it.
Yeah, just normalize it more, because it's tough for athletes. We have tons of athletes at Rockford. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so much.
Rockford is athletes.
Yeah, exactly.
Mental health in sports is so important. And
Yeah,
it's not
and
talked about enough.
people think like when you do sports, you should like know what comes with it. Like, you have to prepare. Like, I do 3 varsity sports, and one of which is gymnastics, and that one is probably the most like mentally challenging, because it's just so drains you. There's so much that comes with it. But they're like, people just say like, oh, you signed up for gymnastics, like you should be preparing for this. Like, you're doing this by choice, but that doesn't mean that I still can't worry about it, or I can't
Yeah.
like feel things about my sport.
When involved in sports, an added anxiety can occur. Feelings of needing to be perfect or the fear of being judged can be common in a sports environment. The fear of failure is high when faced with competition, especially when it could be affecting others on your team. You may worry about your star status, or if you will receive positive feedback. Although these feelings are valid, they are also self-inflicted. Believing that your small mistake has a huge impact on your team creates intense anxiety. There is a belief that in the athletic world, mental illness is perceived as weakness, but this is false. Mental health is just as important as any physical health issue, but is not as obvious to the eye.
So sports anxiety.
Major topic.
Sports. I mean, we're all varsity athletes.
Yeah.
I know for me, like football games, like my anxiety, like,
Through the roof.
it's normal to get worried before you go out.
Yeah,
for, like, a
yeah.
big performance or event.
Okay, but you're also in front of like
Yeah.
10,000
I was
people.
just gonna ask, like, do you ever get worried just because there's so many people there? Like, there's everybody's eyes are on you guys. So.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very like just nerve-wracking knowing that many people are watching, and like I get sick to my stomach before games, and like I have stuff that I do that just helps me like calm down,
Yeah.
because I mean, I seriously feel like I want to throw up before almost
Yeah.
everything.
What
It's
are
a lot of
what is the stuff
pressure.
that you do like before a game? Like, do you have a routine to like help you like shake the nerves, or like?
I will oftentimes just go outside and like put my headphones in while like everyone's in the locker room
Music.
getting dressed, and I'll just put
Yeah.
my headphones in and just like kind of walk up and down the field and just like kind of let my mind go wherever it wants.
Yeah.
And then I'll just focus on like like my assignments, what I know I need to do for that game, and then I'll usually pray before every game. Just that's something that helps me, calms me down. So yeah.
Yeah. For gymnastics, just like talking with my friends, honestly, it kind of just helps like relieve my nerves with just knowing that people are feeling the same way, and usually they know how to calm me down. So.
Yeah. And I mean, Rockford's filled with so many athletes, but what I'd say is more common than just sports like anxiety is just social anxiety in general.
Because that can
Will come with
involve with
tests,
sports.
social talking
Like
to
getting
people,
up like
getting up-
presentations.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I know like
Classes.
my younger sister has really bad social anxiety. And
Yeah.
she's like, I do not want to go to high school because when I go to high school they're gonna make me stand up in front of the class and give presentations, and I will not do it.
Which I honestly feel like I've had a lot of teachers more recently be like, okay, like let me know aside if you're not comfortable with getting in front of class.
like
Yeah.
Our teachers,
Yeah,
that
like
was not used. That did not used to be a thing. Like, I
no,
feel
because
like
in
it's
middle
kind
school,
of
I
like-
remember it was like you didn't have an option or anything
Yeah, or
like
else you
that.
like wouldn't get a grade.
Yes. So
Or
my
zero.
mom's a teacher, and she, whenever they do presentations, like in their class, their like final project is like each student does a TED Talk. Yeah, and she'll either let them do it in front of the whole class, or like you can just watch it with like come in at a certain time with my mom, and she'll watch it, and you'd bring like a couple friends to watch it, or you can record it prior and play it, and then if you want to leave the room, you can, or like just whatever you.
Which accommodates for people's anxiety. Which
Yeah.
I feel like before it was like, oh, like you need to learn how to do it somehow. You need to like
Yeah,
get
you're gonna have
over
to do
your
it someday,
fear. When
but
it's not a fear, it's not going to go away from doing
It's-
it. It's
yeah.
just putting stress on your body that does not need to be there.
No, exactly.
Social anxiety is the fear of being judged in a negative way by others. This can occur when you have high anxiety about acting in a certain way and showing symptoms of anxiety that will be negatively scrutinized by others. Small talk, meeting new people, and presenting in front of others can become a difficult task for those affected by social anxiety. However, social anxiety can be classified as ego dystonic, the understanding that their anxiety is unwarranted, which can lead to even more anxiety. Trembling, blushing, becoming less able to recognize your surroundings, and feeling spaced out are common symptoms associated with social anxiety. If you feel as though you are affected by social anxiety, don't feel the need to keep it hidden. Talk to a trusted adult and learn of ways to leave the anxiety behind.
And like, I don't know, I feel like social anxiety goes really unnoticed sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my dad has social anxiety, like really bad, but you would never know it if you met him.
I did not know that at all.
Seems like a
I would
very
not
outgoing
see that.
person.
No.
But like, but he's so uncomfortable in a social situation when he's talking to people, but he like puts on a good front, which
Yeah,
I feel like
that's how I kind of am too. Where like I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel like the thought that always is racing through my mind is like, this person finds me annoying. Or
Yes.
this person actually hates me and they're just like putting up with me right now because
Yeah,
they have to.
yep.
And like it's not like just like a thought that races. It's like an actual, like, my brain has convinced myself that like my boyfriend, like I'm convinced sometimes that he actually hates me even though he's dating me for a reason. Like
Yeah.
it's so, I don't know like how to explain it. Like there's just these like thoughts that race through your head that you're like, your brain just convinces, or not even your brain. I don't want to say it's your brain. It's your anxiety that convinces you of one thing even though it's completely not true. Like
Yeah.
at all.
Like for me, it's with certain people. Like with my friends, like I don't really get anxious around my friends, but like some people that I'm just talking to, I feel like the same way. Like I feel like they're acting a certain way around me, or like they think something of me and they're acting different because of it, or they don't like me or something like that, and that just like raises my anxiety.
there's sports anxiety, there's social anxiety, but that all kind of comes together to just generalized anxiety disorder, which is what the like official diagnosis would be if you see a psychiatrist or psychologist and they would diagnose you with an anxiety disorder. Most commonly, it's generalized anxiety disorder.
That's why.
Yeah.
So yeah, me too. It's
Generalized anxiety disorder, or better known as GAD, affects individuals that feel their stress is always there. Although stress is normal and helpful in most situations, if the stress does not go away, it may better be classified as GAD. GAD can affect everyday activities like going to school or going to work. Excessive, more than someone else. Persistent, doesn't go away. And unreasonable, shouldn't be worried about, are ways to classify generalized anxiety. It may become hard to control your anxiety and an impairment in daily life, but is not something to be ashamed of. If you experience any of the following symptoms: edginess, restlessness, irritability, muscle tension, trouble sleeping, chronic fatigue, difficulty concentrating, chest pains, or nightmares, you may be affected by generalized anxiety disorder. If you feel as though you are affected by generalized anxiety disorder, don't feel the need to keep it hidden. Talk to a trusted adult and learn of ways to leave the anxiety behind.
anxiety
And
disorder.
that's what, like, before I was diagnosed, because I just got diagnosed because they knew I had like anxiety, but they're like, oh, it's just anxiety. But I was just diagnosed this past January with generalized anxiety disorder, and I like went on meds for it, and like the meds were like a lifesaver. Like I
Notice such a
blessing.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before that, I literally felt like ridiculous sometimes, where I'm like hyperventilating and like heartbeat going up and like all that stuff for no reason. Like it just comes out of nowhere, and you're like, I have no reason to be upset right now, but I'm upset, and I just
Yeah.
want everyone to stay away from me. Like I'm like irritable, like all those things.
And then
once-
you feel bad after,
yeah,
and
I
like,
was like, why was I like that? And then once you get diagnosed with it, it's not a relief because you're like, okay, I have to deal with this for like the rest of my life. But it's like a
Understand.
it just makes sense.
like,
Yeah.
you get to actually understand your brain and what's going on with yourself.
Yeah.
It's not like all for nothing or like
Yeah.
you actually.
It's like you have a reason as to why.
Yeah.
Like, get some answers.
And like meds are very helpful. Like I take meds for my anxiety. So meds for anxiety, they're called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
I didn't even know that. Learn something new.
Well,
Nope.
it says on the side of the pill bottle like SSRI. That's what it
Okay,
stands
that's
for.
what it stands for.
Yeah.
I probably know
so
that.
it's
like,
just
my body.
to get into like the how that works, but it just basically allows your brain to like release more dopamine where
Yeah.
it's like blocked, so that you know, and it works for depression too, so that you aren't feeling as down all the time, and you can learn how to like control your worries. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like with all of that, like our school, like blending it back into schools, because I feel like that's like our everyday lives, where
Yeah.
like we have like a good amount of like outlets. Like we have the peer listening, like we talked about earlier. Our teachers are being more understanding about it.
Yeah.
We have what are those called? Developing healthy kids.
Yeah.
And I know we have our counselors, and we have our therapy dog,
Gunner.
I almost
Yes.
blanked on the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like
And there's some at almost every school. I know there's
East just got one,
Ruffles at East and Chili is at North.
Chili bean ram.
4 years ago, a new member was added to the counseling office family at North Rockford Middle School.
Chili is the first counseling dog that Rockford was able to get
Some might wonder why Chili is at North Rockford Middle School.
because we saw such a need for kids struggling with anxiety and depression, and it's just a stressful time.
Chili is not your average emotional support dog. She had a past career working with disabled individuals.
First, she was really well trained as a Pause for a Cause service dog. They felt like her temperament and her personality would be really well suited to work with students in middle school.
Ms. Ullman started her career as a teacher at East Rockford Middle School. 6 years ago, she made the transition to a counselor. 2 years later, she got a helper, Chili.
She goes home with me as well, so she lives in my house and she comes to school with me. We spend almost 24 hours a day together, so we're very close and very bonded.
Unlike us, Chili has a little different way to know when it's time to go to work.
When it is work time, Chili wears this bandana.
While we look forward to Friday, Chili has a different opinion on that day.
She's kind of sad on the weekends, and Monday mornings when we come back to school, she is excited, and it's cute to see her. She'll do a little leap out in the hallways because she's back at school.
We had a chance to go down to the CI classroom Chili, where she got her official name.
Chili bean ram.
Chili bean ram.
When you see Chili with her bandana on, make sure you say hi. This has been Bob Horrid with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
I just feel like dogs for some reason can empathize with humans without speaking words. Like
They just
I don't
make
know
me
if that
happy
sounds
when I
ridiculous,
see them.
But I know like Gunner, when I like, I don't know, and just my dogs. Like I personally like I've used Gunner like once or twice, but I know he's really beneficial for like many like other students. But like for me, like just having my own dogs when I'm like crying or like I feel like I'm having like a panic
It's just
attack,
like
they're just
someone
fun,
or
like, to
something's
pet.
there.
And there's something, I'm trying to remember what, like it's sensory, where like just like a touch, like you're petting your dog, like it can calm you down. It
Yeah.
can ground you when you're like feeling super anxious. And that's like something so cool that we have at our own school.
Yeah, it's available for us. Like,
Yeah, and that's been a new recent addition. And like Gunner, he takes appointments, so
Yeah.
you,
He's like his own little doctor. I
talk
love
to
it.
his manager.
so if you want to like just schedule an appointment with Gunner, having a bad day, feeling anxious, just he's always there. And
He's available.
Okay, well, thank you for listening to our first ever podcast,
Episode 1.
episode 1. We'll have official titles.
Yeah,
but
we got to come up
right
with a
now,
name
we're just,
too.
Yeah.
And then make t-shirts.
Yeah, so I guess
our introduction.
t-shirts.
Get
I
to
really
know
wants
I
to.
really, maybe like a beanie too.
Whatever,
Make a logo.
Yeah. Well, it's just like to get to know us and get to know what the podcast is about. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we
have some
kind of,
more like specific
And dive
episodes.
deeper into.
yeah, we kind of covered anxiety today, but we didn't get too deep into it,
Yeah,
but
we just went a little general. So
a little general.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
for listening.
Bye, guys. totally know how to end a podcast.